So, good morning to all, and welcome to the Faculty Development Program on Robotics Process Automation, which is conducted by NIELIT Gorakhpur. And now I am going to hand over the session to Mr. Shashik Mamidanna sir. Okay, so he will tell you about the introduction of the robotics process automation. So, hand over to Shashi Mamidanna sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shalini ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Deepam sir. And I also like to thank the NILIT Gorakhpur for giving me this opportunity to extend my experience on what RPA is. Before going ahead, I just wanted to confirm if I'm audible to the participants. If you can just leave a message on the chat window, then I'll. Okay, thank you. I got an yes. So wonderful. All right. So I also would like to thank a company called UiPath, the market leader in robotic process automation, for giving me this opportunity as well, along with NIELIT. We have been associated with this organization for nearly 2 years now. So I'll take a deep dive discussion on RPA today. So my name is Sashi Kumar. I work as an assistant professor in Vasavi College of Engineering from Computer Science and Engineering Department. This college is there in Hyderabad in the state of Telangana. So the agenda for the session is this. So we'll briefly get introduced to what is automation, what is the history of automation, when did it started, what is automation going to do for us, and dive into the introduction to RPA, understand what are the different evolutions which have happened to the robotic process automation, and then talk about what generally is happening in the industry and how automation will come and us. And then do a small comparison on how is automation different from robotic process automation, and then move on with the focus on how is RPA going to leverage AI down the line. Then we're going to go and understand where RPA as an ecosystem is going to offer us different solutions to it. Moving on, which industries are best suited for RPA? We're going to see them. Which processes could be automated? That means where you can really apply robotic process automation. Who are the current market leaders? Talk about UiPath in specific, because this is one company which is considered as one of the market leaders, right? And then the entire workshop, I think, is focused primarily on learning the technology of RPA using this technology. Finally, what will be the future for RPA? And then the last key takeaway which I have for today's session would be what's in for all of us as educators. Let's just quickly jump in. So a small copyright thing. The content which I'm trying to present is presented to you under the academic alliance which I have with me and my college has with UiPath. So if you are sharing it, no problem, you can go ahead and share it, but please try to cite the information as a proprietary content from UiPath. So yeah, let's jump into it. So introduction to automation. So what is automation? Why do we want that? So there are many repetitive tasks day in, day out, which we at work or also in our regular work lives. We tend to do that monotonously, and with automation, I think that is something which we can totally avoid and kind of lead a better life. So where do you think automation basically help us? So it will essentially free human resources who are doing continuously the same old job, which I talk earlier said monotonous. Where is automation used? It's not just only in business and technology. It can also be used in across dimensions. Not only where there is profit and loss. It can also be used in non-profit organizations as well. And some example, one such example could be, you're trying to automate the process of developing bottles, or the plastic bottles, be it. Then what is that it takes for you to do automation, so you can apply all your invoice processing, all your billing segment, all your in front office, back office operations. All this stuff can be simply automated, and then improve the operational, efficiency. So a bit on what where the automation started. It started quite long ago, as we have seen. It started like in 300 BC, where the automation essentially started with taking the clock as a reference, and the first clock, which was invented way back in 700 BC, was by a Buddhist monk in China, and he invented this first clock. And from there, I think the clocks essentially have taken a very good shape, starting from the 13th century onwards. The Greeks, the Arabs, and the European people started adopting clocks in the form of, timers. The sand timers is what we call as. So using sand timers or water timers, I think the automation essentially have started off, and people started following timelines and completing the work. Eventually, in 17 to 1800, I think industrial revolution came in place, and people started identifying that it is more of building products using supply chain. So supply chain started taking shape, and then people started using different sorts of supply chain, and bringing out automation in very nascent stages. Eventually, electrification came into place, and then with the help of as small as a unit called switches, turning it on or off is kind of doing stopping or letting an entire process go ahead. And then way back in 1960s, I think the first concept of a robot was introduced as a mechanical device. A robot is something which was not new back then in 1960. Earlier in 1920 itself, a robot is kind of considered as those people who are slaves. Where most of the time people, whoever, it's more of kind of used as a monologue, where they mean it to be somebody who is working without getting back and saying laid off or giving us any kind of explanations as such. So robots conceived in 1921, late in that years, during that decade, and then later robot was built way back in 1960s and 70s. But what robots are we trying to talk about with regards to the interest of our current study? So it is called robotic process automation. So when we say that, means we want to bring this entire era of automation. Okay, I think I'll switch off my video. Okay, so we are going to basically bring the entire concept of automation as a process as in there is no mechanical thing anymore. There is nothing mechanical here. It's all about we driving a process, we building steps of rules, we creating workflows, and as a part of these workflows, the process is going to get created, and this process is what is looked after by a robot. So let's take an example, a quick example. Generally, what happens when if you talk about insurance, then the insurance executive, whoever sits there on the front office, his or her work is basically to take the documents which are going to be submitted for claims, and these documents are supposed to be reviewed. These documents are supposed to be kept in order, reviewed, and then passed on to the next official who can validate. And once the validation goes through, it is passed on to the bank for releasing the paycheck. So there are some activities across this workflow which could probably be automated as in me validating the documents if it is correct or wrong, me ordering the documents in a way in which the I can essentially confirm that it's a genuine or a misleading insurance claim. So this process is as on date done by a human. So instead of we making a human sit there and do that monotonous job, which in turn include brings in a lot of errors, a lot of frustration for people, and it is not easy easy day job for anybody to do. So there, I think we can create a robot which does the process in an automated fashion, then we call this concept as robotic process automation. So we have introduced, I mean, we got introduced to RPA as a mainstream business line in the early 2010, in this decade, in fact. And there were companies actually which started taking shape in the early 2000s, okay, 2003, 2005, 2007 times. So whatever technology we are looking forward as of now is not as old as 15 years even. Okay, it's there in the market as new as like 6 to 7 years. So the RPA is introduced into mainstream businesses, and like a couple of years ago, people also have seen the evolution of RPA as advanced RPA. And current day, we are looking at a term, Gartner in 2020 has released a top 10 technological trends. And one of the technological trends is hyper automation. So we are getting introduced to what is RPA in this FDP. We are also going to see what is advanced RPA by the end of the course. And we are getting introduced to what is called hyper automation. Hyper automation is what we are going to see by the end of the slide. So yeah, what is the benefits of automation? Automation offers several benefits like improves productivity with respect to what? Because we are not making our employees do monotonous work. So which in turn reduces the interest of working for any organization. So which in turn improves the productivity. Decreases the operational cost because I need not hire more resources for doing a monotonous job. So the cost basically is reduced. The time for handling the work also is reduced because a computer works faster than a human. And it assists worker safety as well, which with regards to use cases where we don't want the user to go ahead and probably check the levels of boiler plant. We want the robot to basically check the levels there in the indicator, and then it'll come back and do what is supposed to be done. So in all, automation essentially helps us. So there's a small video I would like all of you guys to have a look at it. So this talks about the story of work. So story of work as in what currently the users are doing every day, and why we want automation as such. So let me just play it.
This is the story of work.
Can you people, participants, listen to the audio? Can you please confirm?
Sir.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
This is the story of work. It started a long time ago, on a Monday, which was handy. For as long as history itself, the humans needed to work. They wanted to work, to grow things and create things and build things, to see what they were capable of, to stand at day's end and say, I did that, which felt pretty good. So they worked more, built more, and created more, and traveled to far-off places. And then someone suggested submitting expense reports for those far-off places. His name was Glenn, and he was a jackass. Anyway, the people kept getting better at work. They built better tools to work more efficiently. They built amazing machines to work faster. They built computers to work smarter. But still, they couldn't do enough work. Because during all that work to do more work, they had created work, and not the good kind. Not the let's sit around and come up with ideas kind. Not the I can't wait to get to work so I can jump into a new project kind. The crap kind. The drudge and data and admin and the damned expense reports. So the humans had to work more at work they didn't like. That made them robotic. That didn't inspire. They had to postpone vacations. They had to miss family dinners. They were pissed. And then something happened. Someone had a really amazing idea. They came into work and said, stop working and start working. The humans thought she might have had wine at lunch, so she showed them a way to put the fun back into work, to waste less time doing the things they hated, to make more efficient the big tasks, to stop making the humans act like robots, and start teaching the robots to learn the humans. Not to replace people, but to free them. Even Glenn. Robots that learn you. Imagine the potential, like starting over, to help us remember again that work only really works when we're happy at it.
All right. So that, as I told you, that was a content taken from the same old company which I was talking about earlier. So that is what is the power of robotic process automation. So people start liking to go to work and work. So, but now the situation is a kind of more scary for people. It is like they most of the times think that this automation is coming up, AI and ML is coming up, and we are going to lose jobs. That's all correct, but at the same time, we are not losing jobs. We are creating new jobs which are more innovative, creative. So all it takes is going to upscale ourselves, upscale the upcoming generation as such. So for that situation, I think RPA is one such technology which is enabling a software program to mimic human actions. So whatever human actions we are doing, we instead are using a robot to do by replacing human. So these are all monotonous works which a robot can do. When you lock the system and go for a tea break, probably the bot basically detects it. It wakes up and does that monotonous work for you, and when you come back from tea or coffee, it is already ready for us. So what are the so how does it do? It basically reads and processes data in a structured form. When I say structured form, it also can be unstructured in the form of a PDF. So PDF is a collection of images and text put together. So even PDFs can be read using the process automation along with Word documents, Excel documents, mails, and so on. So it also operates on different applications. So we can also say that we can automate things which are there on our desktop. We can automate things even on the browser. And if you want to visit a website and probably do something, then that also can be done here. It also enables software program to mimic human actions, which is that's what we said. There are multiple clicks which every day the user has to come and do for getting a report, and that reports are supposed to be generated by this individual multiple number of times. So then I think it hates me to go to job. So we just need to mimic those actions, and that is where RPA comes and help. So we in turn are creating a digital workforce. So that means instead of we having one employee who's bored and sick, we are bringing in 10 robots and replacing that monotonous work with 10 robots across the entire company. So this is all happening in the background for us, and no errors. 100% there are no errors. If there are errors, then the error is only because we have created such a bot. So if we are creating a bot which is error free, then the bot will not make any mistakes. But that could probably happen with humans. So I'm not saying we are wrong, but we are just trying to improve ourselves. We are just trying to upskill ourselves. We are trying to live in a better world. So, and it's very easy to implement, powerful enough, and also it can scale. It can scale in size. So today the robot is able to process like 1 GB of data. Then down the line, it can also process 100 GB of data by employing more bots. How did the evolution happen? So I think before we jump on to here, there are a few things which I wanted to talk, and that is RPA essentially has evolved in 4 different levels. The first level is called a traditional automation, which we have seen, like where there is a process, and that process simply has to run by itself. Then all it takes for us is to create a simple Python program. That program runs in the background, creates logs for us, and so there is another process which takes it from there. But that is not what we are looking at always, because we are dealing with applications which not necessarily are a background application. There are some situations where the system should have to open your email. In the email, it has to check if there is any attachment with the name NIELIT FDP Gorakhpur, and then you have to identify at which time the favorite session of yours is scheduled, and accordingly it has to create a reminder. So there are too many applications involved in here. So that is where we got the second evolution of RPA called RPA 2. We call it as unattended robots, unattended RPA, unattended version of RPA. Sorry, attended version of RPA, I'm sorry. So where we have the users who are trying to help the bot to do some actions with the help of the user. So then this third evolution has happened. That is where bots also have evolved, and they need not have the need for the users anymore. So this is where we call it as unattended RPA. So this is the third evolution we call it as, where you just configure wherever human intervention was necessary and trust that bot to do the work for you, and it does it for you. The fourth evolution is what we call it as RPA 4. We call it as cognitive RPA. Cognitive RPA is the one where we brought in this part into the bot so that the bot right now also knows how to learn by itself and do things. And the fifth layer, which is considered as the upcoming trend, is called hyper automation. That is where you're not just stopping here, you're bringing in all types of business models, gel together, and RPA is just a subset of doing automation across all of these different technologies. We'll talk about that when the slide deck is almost over. So moving on, so what evolution happened? So initially it was like this. So scraping, scraping software. This is where we wanted assisted robots, where we are simply going to, for instance, in this slide, I want to scrape probably today's date and kind of identify what is the name of this particular slide. I just want these two things. Then this is called you scraping the screen. This content is also delivered for you. You will do one session on screen scraping in the entire FTP. And then workflow automation. Workflow automation, as I told you earlier, there are some series of steps. Step one, you have to open the email. Step two, you have to check if there is an email from somebody. Step three, you have to check if it is having an attachment. Step four, you have to download it. Step five, you have to open that and identify if the available content is there in it. Step six, you keep a reminder. Okay, so this is called workflow automation. This is where most of the BPM companies are also looking for having a bot. Most of the BPM, business process management companies, are also looking for bringing an RPA on top of it. And third thing is AI. This is where we call that as cognitive RPA. I know most of us are pretty excited about ML and AI. So with the tools what we have in front of us, the market leaders, whoever are there, we can very easily create a model and then ask our bot to follow that particular model and give us more intuitive results. So benefits, yeah, I think a little bit of theory, but we have to understand that it is really beneficial for us. So it increases the execution speed because there are more of programs than humans. It improves accuracy as well because the number of errors are going to be low unless we are configuring the bot to make mistakes. The third thing is improved compliance and governance because there are set of rules. These are the only rules which generally the bot can follow because that is how it is kind of programmed. But if it is some human like us, then not us people, then they tend to probably knowingly or unknowingly commit mistakes, and which could in turn create a compliance or a governance issues. So we are going to improve on that as well. Reduced cost of process execution. Of course, it reduces the cost because with respect to the time of execution or completion of the work versus the amount of investment you are keeping in to hire the manpower. It scales easily because, as I told you, all it takes is if you can write a workflow for one bot, then create instances of these workflows, make these workflow run in parallel computers, and then all these computers are doing the same job for you. So you have you have scaled your workflow as such. Obviously, because the work is kind of getting completed faster, you will get the return on investments also a little quicker. So these are the benefits. Small comparison. This is the slide which brings in a little bit of clarity on what is automation. So automation, take an example, is like calculators or washing machine. So they are tend to only do the job which is assigned to them. Water purifier only it purifies water. Washing machine just washes the clothes. So there is automation as well here, but they are standalone. They are like non-integrated silos. They just do what they are supposed to do, and they are not talking to one another. So it just automates a specific type of a process. But with RPA, it's not like that. You can talk to different type of business toolkits all together and gel them and bring out a more effective understanding out of the business model. This is obviously platform independent, and here you cannot see for I cannot probably turn on. I mean, these days with IoT it is possible, probably possible, but not only that, also only to the extent of that machine itself. You cannot most of the times mimic, for instance, you cannot add the detergent powder into the washing machine even though there is an IoT solution. All you can do is you can probably turn on, turn off, change the modes, identify what is the state of it. But here with RPA, you can probably also identify resources and accordingly schedule the resources in a way in which you can mimic the entire human intervention as well. By the way, I would like to tell you one thing here. We are not trying to make these washing machines come under RPA. We are just saying that automation is happening in a non-integrated siloed manner here. But here we are talking about creating a process which allows us to integrate different processes which are there in a computer, like Word, PPT, some web browser or Excel file or email. So all these are related to computer. So you want to kind of gel all of these together as a single product, and that is possible using RPA. So one very good example is chatbots. So most of the, I mean, say not specific to the service provider whom I am trying to talk about, but every market leader, whoever is there, is already there in this space of chatbots. It not necessarily need to be RPA, but chatbots is something which more or less is relevant to NLP. So chatbots, but is kind of an example for uh, a unique example for RPA as well. Okay, so now with RPA there in place, what will happen if we are going to also bring in AI into it? So as we have taken the example of a workflow as in which you are trying to do a job and the job is basically completed. And once the job is completed, what are we doing after this? We again wanted a human to come and analyze this report and probably do bring some intelligent analytics out of it. Then that is the place where you can also bring in a machine learning model as well. So which in turn is going to reduce the burden on the individual. Try to identify what went right and what went wrong as a part of this report, and only leave that business taking decisions for humans. And rest of all of these things are end of the day kind of considered monotonous. There are people who are getting paid a lot of money for generating intelligent reports these days. Okay, that is obviously pretty logical, but if you can train machines to take those logical decisions, which is possible as on current day, which is absolutely possible, because for one thing is we have humongous amount of data there. So with data you can train a model. Once the model is trained, it can take decisions. Just need to balance those hyperparameters so that you get the exact output what you're looking for. So with AI being a part of RPA, it is going to create a wonderful robot altogether for us. So RPA is going to look forward for high volume of our voluminous processes. It is going to replace those processes which are labor intensive. It is only going to be applied. It suits only those processes. It only it is only going to suit those processes which are rule based and repetitive. Unless they are monotonous is what is the word. And if there is monotonicity in most of the processes, then that is where RPA can come and help. And finally, RPA is also going to work seamlessly in the use cases where there is structured data. Now, not always the data is going to be structured. Yes, I can see there is echo as well. Can somebody mute it? I think I cannot mute it from my side. All right, please unmute mute yourself, all participants. I think that would help. Hello. Thank you. Then on top of RPA, which is trying to create a bot for us, on top of this, if we are going to bring in the layer of artificial intelligence, then all that unprocessed or unstructured data which is there for you, which you know how to pre-process and create a model for, can be used for also understanding the sentiment analysis, also be able to respond back to you as a chat window, trying to understand from the user requests. And with the help of trained models and the awareness of natural languages, I think it becomes a more sophisticated robot which can solve our problems. So this is where currently the entire world is right now. So RPA is being applied only with AI capabilities available on top of it. All right, so slightly moving on. So how are we doing it? So we are doing it in like this, just like a standard ML model. So through RPA and AI integration, the cognitive power of AI to any software is going to be applied with the help of RPA. So what it does, it basically takes the document and understands that document, brings out some analytics out of it, and it gives us a visual representation of what it understood. And accordingly, the users can react to that particular understanding, whether it is right or wrong, and improve the understanding of the bot and create a much better bot. All right. So, what are those emerging ecosystems which we have seen in RPA as of now? So, the first thing is process mining. So there are many processes which still are there in the background. The best example there is to create and retrieve backups and archivals. So this is a standalone process which runs in the background, and this process continuously is kind of supposed to be evolved, because I don't want logs are supposed to always be processed at runtime and real time. The second thing is intelligent OCR. So OCR, as you know, optical character recognition. So when you process PDFs, not necessarily always the data is text. So there are images as well as a part of it. Kindly mute participants. I don't have a provision to mute people, so I'm sorry on that. Those who are unmuted, please try to mute. Okay. So OCR, as we was talking about, is going to be optical character recognition. So the most popular OCR is going to be open source OCR is going to be Tesseract. If you guys have experimented it earlier, given by Google. So that is something which is the baseline for most of the OCRs these days in the market, which are proprietary as well. So with OCRs there in place, RPA is going to also get its strength and energy, I should say, because PDFs right now automation is going to be much easier. And the kind of conversion rate of doing the OCR in these RPAs is also phenomenal. As far as I say, 98-99% accuracy, it is able to kind of convert those optical characters into text. Once it is done, then you know you have text. Then what you want to do with this text is always we are trained to do that. Workflows, as we discussed earlier, all your business process management applications, wherever they are, these BPMs can be used. I mean, I have an example. I mean, for instance, you are probably trying to apply for the registration of your vehicle, a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, then there are series of steps there, which most of the times are taken care by the store from where you purchased your vehicle. So for him, if it has to go seamlessly, then there should be a process management there. So who should take who after paying what, where should the request go, and so on. So it is kind of an entire life cycle for a process. So those business process management applications also are seamlessly going to get can be used. I mean, in these use cases also, you can use spending a lot of quality time in generating reports. Most of the people who have done MBAs generally are kept at doing this work. Instead, they are more compliant. They are more capable of taking intelligent decisions rather than preparing reports. So there, I think you can train a bot, and then the bot creates the reports for you, and then these guys can take intelligent decisions on top of these reports. So we can cut down time there. Finally, talking about the industries where you can apply, the first primary place where this is being used is banking and finance, BFSI, banking, finance, and insurance as well. So where there is too much of paperwork, even though there is internet banking, still the amount of people who use internet banking is 20-25% only, what RBI said. And then the remaining people are still, they either are not comfortable or they don't really trust the online banking as such. So they still go to banks and then get the work done. So if they are going to banks, there is paper. If there is paper, then there is too much of monotonous work. So unless the paper is eliminated and the software content is coming up, you cannot help. So this is where the RPA also comes and plays a very important role, where instead of people processing all these applications, they can simply run these set of applications through a scanner, and it gives us a PDF, and this PDF can be used for as an input for your bot, and the bot is kind of understanding which portion of that application's content is needed for me, and the data processing is happening very smoothly. Also, as I told you, I mean, any BPM, even in banks, there are processes, right, for taking a loan, or for opening an account, or probably for switching your account from one place to another place. Be it anything, there are processes there. There are steps of rules. You have to take signature from here, go there, go there, go there. So all this also can be automated using a bot. With AI incorporated into it, it can become more intelligent and take valuable decisions as well. Even in healthcare industry, all your front and back office works with regards to billing and stuff can also be automated. The same thing again comes here, the insurance claims and all. All of this also can be taken very good care of. Then moving on to manufacturing, we have the supply chain logistics, the delivery things, which are like the logistic operations as well, which comes here anyways. So all these are also can be automated with the help of RPA. Talking about customer service, yeah, this is a booming industry where most of the customer executives are being replaced by bots, where these bots are either talking to us, or also these are bots which also are kind of replying to our user queries with the help of a chat window. Most of the times, these services are still very nascent. Most of the web applications actually uses a third-party bot, which instead using the current RPA tools, creating a bot is like three-step process. Step A, step B, step C, plus that's it. And the bot is ready for you. You just take this bot and get integrated and let this bot get integrated into your web application. So only bot as a service is also going to be offered to you with the help of RPA. And then travel, transportation, logistics. Yes, this is also extremely one of the most happening, place of business. But now, due to the pandemic, this is the most hit business as well. So where who is coming in, at what time they are coming in, what resources they need, what is the kind of room they opted for, what kind of food will they like, and all these things can be trained to a bot, and the bot is going to actually talk to the people there in the hotel rooms, and even for logistics, for delivering a package. Once the package is delivered or not, a bot is going to actually sit for every request. For instance, yesterday or day before, I ordered something in JioMart, and then what happened is the status says it is delivered already yesterday evening, but nothing came and got delivered to me yet. So it could be some bug there in the system, and then that bug is something which probably is there supposed to be taken care of in the backend office. So if there is a bot which actually sits and monitors all of this, all right, then that creates a better trust over the company, and also good revenues as well. So best suited, there are sales, human resources. Also, I think this is one area where we could see a potential use case, and that is for filtering resumes, and for looking forward with regards to the employee's satisfaction, and for identifying any kind of initiatives which should be planned for human resources or stuff like that. I think we can create a bot here. The one, for instance, let's talk about the resume filtering. So it can essentially identify the ones which are good, which are not good, and accordingly push content in one basket, the other resumes in another basket, and create more intelligent ways of doing businesses. Operations, again, it's kind of a little repeated, but yes, I mean, you improve operation and the efficiency, because bots are going to come and help us. IT, yes, in fact, now, as you know, most of our participants, the businesses these days are totally reliant on data. So more the data, better your understanding about your business. So with that amount of data being there in place, it becomes extremely difficult for somebody to monitor and understand what's happening in the background as well. So with RPA there as a part of your IT as in look forward, how which resource is using what kind of computational resources, who is using mostly the internet services, who is mostly using the and accordingly kind of cater the needs as needed. It's not like you're trying to identify somebody who is doing misusing things. So that, for that also you can probably use supply chain, as we discussed, with manufacturing and logistics. I think supply chain is going to fit well. Banking and finance also is one suitable use case. And this is my addition to the course content. This is my addition to the course content, which is called education. So where do you think RPA can be used in education? So I myself have kind of, see, I'm also a teacher just like all of us. So I have used this RPA in the last 1.5 years. I think 1 year should be the right duration, because the first 6 months is where I was also trying to understand where can I apply this. So we, as all of us, can also use this RPA and reduce most of our, at least few of those areas of effort which we do monotonously. So I'll show you a few use cases which we have developed in our college. So what processes are you going to automate? These are going to be the processes which are rules driven. Rules driven as in a process that must have a rule behind it. Okay. And whether it is a yes, you do this, whether it's a no, you kind of supposed to do this. So like that, there are supposed to be predefined rules. Any if a process is not having predefined rule, then the first rule failed. It cannot be automated using RPA. Similarly, if the requirement should be in huge volumes of data, if it is not having huge volumes of data, then what happens? It is easy for me to train somebody to get this job done, rather than me investing in training somebody to develop a bot and get it ready for me, because the data is very small, probably like 100 MB of data. Then to process this 100 MB of data, it takes probably 1 week for somebody, or 10 days for somebody to review and give us a result for. Okay, but for building a bot and you investing on the software, and you doing all of that, is probably useless for such a small amount of information. But if there is data coming every day, every minute, then that is where you want RPA to come and help you. All right, and then where there is lots of data cleaning and data crunching needed, which is data is coming, but the data is humongous, and at the same time, most of this data is still not ready for your consumption. It is like in bits and it's like too many bits and pieces, and you need to integrate all of these together to form one concrete data set. And finally, it is repetitive. We are doing it, solving it today. Tomorrow again, the same job is coming back to us. Then obviously you have to go for a solution which is like RPA. And finally, driven by digital inputs. Most of the times, if they are digital inputs, at least if it is not digital, also if you can convert that into a PDF format, at least with well-known NLP understanding of your for your bot, then yeah, even non-digital data also it is going to work as on current day. So these are the 5 different mandatory rules which we have to first identify for thinking if RPA is supposed to be applied or adopted in our own businesses. All right. So moving on, this is very recent. If you can see this is taken as of June 2020, and as you know, this is Gartner who actually gives us the predictions of what is going to happen, and most trusted as well in the entire world. So they have kind of proposed, this is called a Magic 4 quadrant, where they divide the quadrant into 4 different segments, who are the leaders, challengers, and the niche players who are just evolving, and the visionaries. That means who have something else apart from what these people are offering to us. So as you can see that there are 3 different players, because these are the first in the market in the area of RPA. These are going to be considered as the leaders, and they have their own products. They have their own advantages and disadvantages. So I've left a link which all these 3 companies are referring to the same image as well, so taken from that reference. So a small comparison study which I have done with regards to these 3 products, starting with the license. That means we as educators, we are going to only experiment those which are open source most of the times. But if they are proprietary, probably we don't really care about them, because there is nothing much for us to learn there. So these 3 are the most popularly used products by most of the. That means the 3 companies have the major stake in the RPA space. So I thought I should probably do a comparative study here, at least in few dimensions. So starting with license. So Blue Prism basically offers you to use their product for 30 to 90 days, depending on the type of product you use, enterprise or community version. So similarly, Automation Anywhere is the second, I should say, visible product, but it offers only 30 days trial license. UiPath is the one which actually offers us free for life. We can use that, experiment with that well. The market visibility, all are actually high, as we already talked about, but mostly adopted tool is UiPath. Third thing is architecture. These 2 products are basically reliant on client server architecture. That means if you want to deploy your RPA ecosystem, then there should be a dedicated server, and that dedicated server in turn talks to the clients which are running on the individual desktops. So, but UiPath is kind of slightly different. It uses a web orchestrator where you need not have any setup for server as such, but there is this orchestrator available as a cloud service for us. And then all you need to do is configure your bots in the local machines, and then make this bot register this bot to the orchestrator, and the orchestrator knows how to read and write the talk to the bot when needed. With regards to the usability as in with the perspective of a developer. So this Blue Prism and UiPath are the ones which are totally drag and drop. So it's very extremely simple. All you need to do is drag and drop and just understand what each of these drag and drops have got the functionalities for, and then simply develop your use case. But Automation Anywhere essentially is a little bit of a script based. We will have to write a bit of coding. I mean, the developer should be at least an intermediate code developer at that level. But in these two cases, the other two cases, they can be as minimum as 0, no development experience, no problem. They can simply come and if they are able to know how to solve a problem, that's enough. That's enough. They can come and simply do the RPA pod created. Yeah, the programmer is like intermediate, advanced, and probably amateur here. So, I mean, with comparison between these two also, UiPath is kind of more convenient for people. And finally, if you want to get trained on this UiPath, with regards to these three market leaders, so Blue Prism and Automation Anywhere offers paid trainings on their website, or you have to go and take the courses from the tools like the YouTubers like these guys, Edureka or IntelliPat or people like them. But UiPath actually has something called Academy, and in this Academy, anybody can get registered and simply take the learnings from themselves. And for on successful completion of the courses offered to you, you are going to get a certificate by the end of the course completion. So, but for you, if you want to get certified, then you will have to pay a certification cost, which also is kind of very economical, and nothing more than $75, if I am not wrong, for academic alliance institutes. So you have to go to Prometric Center, and the test also is pretty unique for getting certified. Generally, most of the tests are like you do multiple choice questions, but UiPath is kind of slightly different, where we will have to create a workflow and say that we are capable of developing a bot. So and yeah, one more small thing which I wanted to highlight here is the market trend. So Google actually gives us this trend, and this trend is what I have taken for the last 3 years. So the last 3 years, if you have seen, then the growth scale for UiPath is probably a little higher when compared with the automation. So these are trends given to us by Google search. So we are not trying to promote any company here at any cost, because we are educators. We just are trying to learn what offers us the best. So